dusty, slam rusty, core dead with a sequel. I've been through everything, I done felt all the pain, but I still maintain the champion reign.
Welcome to episode 1 of the 318 podcast. I am your co-host, Mitchel Clark, and joining with me today is Fleury.
Fleury. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Other co-host. How are you doing?
Cool. Awesome.
I'm good.
Dude,
Good.
Freaking awesome. Excited for this.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
super,
indeed.
super excited for this podcast. I mean, we've been talking for this podcast for a couple months now.
Couple months. It was a little sporadic, but I was like, let's do it. It came when we found out that we had a podcast studio that we could actually do this in.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Well,
cool.
To lock in, because we're going to start this off. So the entire idea of this podcast is focusing on faith, fitness, and finance. By finance, we're talking entrepreneurship, sales. We're both in like sales positions. You with the gym builds, and myself in medical device sales. Yeah. So I feel like the best way to start this off is kind of where we connect in the first place, which is the fitness area. So I got some questions for you.
Yeah, cool. Awesome.
But before we get into that too much, give me a very quick 2, maybe 3 minute rundown on your biography and what you've done up to this point.
Sure. Yeah. No, man. So I am born and raised in France.
Yep.
I grew up in a French Alps. So for me, being an athlete, moving, anything like that, it was like since I was born. Like I always did something physically active. Like it was from skiing when I was younger, and I competitive skied until I was 15, and then when I transitioned to 15, I needed like another sport, and I was pretty big and pretty physical. So one of I think it was my tennis coach, which I did recreationally. It wasn't crazy, but he told me I should probably start doing rugby. And so I was in the middle of the summer, and I was like, okay, let me try to find a rugby camp. I couldn't find one. So, and I'm in the middle of France. I don't know why I didn't find one. Maybe I didn't look good enough. I don't know.
Yeah, I swear.
But so instead of that, I found an American football camp in France. No, crazy. I like, what the heck? So I went to that camp and I fell in love. Like I became good at it. And yeah, that's where my start of being physically active was. I was about 15. My grandpa actually introduced me to the gym.
Okay.
And he told me I needed to go 3 times a week to the gym. It quickly became a bit more than that. Actually, when I was younger, before I became a Christian, it was a bit of an obsession, and I would go 7 times a week, and I couldn't find results. And now that I'm a bit more mature and I know more about exercise science and how the body operates, now I know that's not the most effective way to work out if you're natural. So yeah, that's my background. I came here when I was 17 to play football. I was in high school, then I went to Trinity State University, which is a Division II program, and yeah, I fell in love with exercise science, pre-medical. Fell in love with just like learning how the body operates and how to make it most effective, but also how to help people in their, whether it's corrective exercise, get them out of pain. I just fell in love with how to bring this fitness thing that I'm such in love with, connected to my faith, which is the most important thing in my life. And now that I'm so interested in business building, that you've talked about it a little bit, I sell gym builds. I go to people's houses, they have a vision, and we do everything from there on, to the last part, which is just putting everything together and making it the best that they want, the most effective that they need for their goals. So we do everything. They have a vision. We go inside. They tell us what they want, and we, based on our expertise, we kind of tell them what they kind of need, and then we build everything for them. Yeah, and also I'm a studio director for a private personal training gym in McKinney, Texas. And yeah, so I lead a team of 7 trainers out here in private, luxurious personal training gym, and super exciting, man. It's awesome.
Good deal, man.
Awesome.
Well,
tell us before that. Tell us a little bit about your fitness. Like where did your love of fitness come from?
So in a very quick nutshell, I did play a little bit of football in high school. I was either tight end for a couple years, and I was also on the defense for a couple years as well. Played a couple different positions. Then I went to college, went through ROTC in the military. So I became an infantry officer in about 2012, I believe it was. Did some Army schools, Air Assault School, basic training, Ranger School. You know, the very act of being an infantry officer in the Army required a certain level of physicality, but it was mainly functional in that sense. There wasn't really an aesthetic component to it, although I felt I looked somewhat aesthetic. But in the last year of my time there, I was a captain at Fort Benning in a training position. And so it afforded me a little more flexibility to kind of chase my own fitness ambitions. So I prepared for a men's physique show, which I competed in Daytona Beach.
Okay.
And that was right before my transition out. And so I've kind of maintained more of that style of fitness training, which I believe you and I are planning to try to do one at some point this year.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So I competed in a lot of different events, and there's a lot more that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
I competed in the powerlifting meets,
Yep.
many of them, football games, of course, skiing, like a lot of athletic events. But bodybuilding is something I've never done. I've got pretty lean before from actually DEXA scan. I got all the way down to 6% body fat, but I only weighed 185 pounds. Now I'm like 235. It's much different. I'm also 6'3". But yeah, I'm super excited. I think for me, this part of bodybuilding and taking my body fat that low, I think I'm super interested in how my mind's gonna interact. Because
be a little foggy. You'll be a little foggy and a little crazy, but
do it effectively. Also, it's like, from what I've heard, is that your body naturally wants food so bad that no matter what conversation you're gonna have with that bodybuilder, they're just gonna talk about food. Like if it starts a conversation about household, it'll finish by your favorite restaurant around the house. I heard that's quite common. That happens.
Yeah, I can. When I dieted down, because I did not take home the gold. I was down to probably about like 7-8% body fat, which for men's physique, usually hovering somewhere in like the 5 to 7% range is pretty common for those that take home the gold. Men's physique isn't quite as conditioned because it's more of
it used to not be, but now
it is.
Just think about it now. Like if you look at Mr. Olympia.
Yeah.
I mean, when you see the Olympia, when they just got introduced to the men's physique, it was like just like the classic surfer kind of look, and now it's like just absolutely people who used to be in the open, you know?
Yeah.
They're massive now. They just don't have legs.
No,
it's just people who don't train legs.
Right. That's like right. So when I went in, it was like 3 years ago. It was also in the amateur division, and I did the novice and beginners category. I did not compete in the open. So in that range, most of the people were somewhere in the 5 to 7. Now, when they were stepping on stage competing for the pro card, 100% the guys in the top 3 were in the sub 5%, body fat. Like you could see a lot of the veins on the chest, veins on your abs, like pretty high level of conditioning. Which, granted, funny enough, the guy that took home the gold was not the biggest. He was actually one of the smaller ones on there, but he had just dieted down so hard. They prioritized conditioning in men's physique. Probably even more than mass.
Do you think like they still do right now? So, Sonia, if you look like, I forgot the name of the guy. Anyway, he didn't win it. I think Brandon is the last winner. Am I wrong?
Of the men's physique?
Men's physique. I believe this guy called Brandon.
I was gonna say Brandon Carter. I don't think he competes.
I don't think it's not Brandon Carter. I think his name is Brandon, and he's absolutely massive. I think he's from Chicago or Florida, but he's absolutely massive, like huge. I think it's just only thing you have board shorts on, which kind of like hide your legs a little bit. And some of them have decent legs, but it's just not the level as symmetry in legs that classic physique has. And classic physique a little bit taller of an athlete. Yeah,
generally speaking, you're kind of right in a certain sense. Like depending on how you're genetically gifted, those with really good like hamstrings, thighs, glutes usually go for the bodybuilding division because you're able to show those off. If you're the type that you hold more of your fat in your lower body and you do men's physique, you can get away with not being quite as conditioned. Like if you lose a lot of your fat primarily in like your calves, your upper body, arms, and whatnot, you get dieted down to below sub 8 and show up looking pretty good because the board shorts are covering it up. But when you're in the bodybuilding and the thong, it's pretty hard to hide anything.
Usually, most males, we kind of like carry our fat in our subsection, right? It's going to be right here. It's going to be the love handles. It's going to be the stomach.
Sure.
That's usually where the last part of fat kind of like, it doesn't mean that you kind of like, that's where you store every single ounce of fat and like you have to do like specific things to lose that fat there. It's just how naturally, genetically, how most of men's bodies are kind of like built, is that's the source of fat that is the most visible, and also as like you can see the most in the mirror because it hides your abs for a lot of people.
Correct.
But also it's the last part where your body will start like stripping its fats and liposes for. Exactly. So
let me start off with asking you since you're the personal trainer, you're the subject matter expert in these things. That's correct. So first off, you're a personal trainer right now. What?
Fitness professional.
Fitness professional. Sorry. You were a personal trainer. We're a personal trainer now. Fitness professional. So, one thing I'll ask too is for your personal training, we'll talk about more like when you're training on a more elite level versus more noobs later on. But for you and how you structure your program, how do you structure your weekly fitness program?
For my own or for my clients?
For you specifically.
For my own, yeah. So the way I do
we're
it,
preparing for men's physique. How are you going to prepare for
yeah,
it?
so I'm actually still bulking right now. I did a switch of jobs recently, so that came kind of like in the midst of I've also been married and other things. So for myself right now, the way I do it is I do super high volume. So I'll focus on taking some working sets per muscle group of about 25 to 35 per muscle group.
Okay.
And I'm going to split every single muscle group per workout.
Let me ask you this: when you count those up, when you're doing compound movements, do you consider those like half reps for the ancillary muscles you're working?
No, I do. Yeah. So anything like for a muscle group, like a small muscle group, like biceps, triceps, I'll divide those in half.
Okay.
And I'll actually group legs together. Like the 40, I'll just do legs. I won't do like 25 hamstrings, 25 quads.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll group those together just because I found like that works well for my body. I'm really focusing on growing my delts. So that's something I'll really grow, like add a ton of volume to, add a ton of intensity to it also. And also my chest and my back, my lats, certainly. Coming from a football background, we didn't do predominantly any kind of like lat movements.
Yeah.
Everything was pretty much rhomboids. Everything was traps. Everything is about being a strong, big neck. And also it's bigger push movement, right?
Well,
you don't have a lot of football movements that you have a pull inside of it. Everything is a push. You're pushing somebody off, catching the ball, you're driving, your head down. So, anyway, it's just a lot of push. So you focus a lot on push and a lot on legs when you do football. Same thing with skiing.
Right.
As you push off, I guess that one you pull, but like that's very small amount of skiing, and the rest is just going to be legs. It's that isometrical hold in that position to go skiing back and forth.
Well, and that's what I was going to go into. Because you did football and skiing, I'm assuming your physique kind of gravitated more naturally towards really strong, big legs. My brother's the same way.
Yeah.
He was on the offensive line on football, and it was all leg training. Like your squat, maybe your deadlift, but your squat was like how you measured how good you were in it, not necessarily your bench press or your overhead or any of that stuff. So did you come out of playing in the sports realm a little bit more leg dominant, and that why you're trying to bring up?
Yeah, I was predominantly leg dominant. Even when I was younger, even when I was super, super lean, my legs didn't really lose that much size. It could have been something that is more genetics. I come from France. My mother's British. We are very tall. My mother's 6 foot. My dad's 6'2". My sister's 6 foot. So it could be some sort of like genetics part of us that because we're tall, we put a lot of mass on our legs. I don't know. It could be that, or it could be just from naturally when I was a kid, just doing a lot of skiing and a lot of legs activities. Like that's where my body has a good awareness of putting some size on. But yeah, that's usually the last part where I'll lose some muscle mass. If I'm getting really lean and I lose some muscle mass, a tiny little bit of it when I get lean, that's the last part that I would lose. That's predominantly like I came into the fitness realm with a decent size in legs. That's for sure. And a decent leanness also, which is quite interesting. I don't carry that much fat in my legs. We did the skin fold one time, and it was super difficult for that person to take some fat, and it was pretty much skin. And on other parts of my body, it was maybe 10, maybe 12, some things like that, but it was quite difficult. And it might be in a position I was. But yeah, that's usually the part of my body that I'm quite strong. I put a little bit of size on, but also like I'm pretty lean also.
You may want to consider the classic physique then, possibly.
Yeah. The only thing is I'm 6'3", 235 pounds, carry a decent amount of weight on my lower body. If I want to do classic, those guys are just another level of size and symmetry.
Yeah.
That I think that just because of those things, usually if somebody's novice and not that good, they usually will gravitate towards I'm gonna do men's physique.
Sure.
And so that's why the competition is a little bit easier. And I do want to win because I'm mega competitive. And if I go over there and I'm like last place at that classic, maybe I'll do it. Who knows? But if I'm last place at classic, that's something I can.
You'll notice when you go over there, kind of what the competitors look like and how they have to turn the folds.
Right.
So going back to how you
Right.
function in training.
Mhm.
So you group legs as one, so 25 sets per like when the workout. It's going to be like 25 to 35
yeah.
for legs. So
Yeah.
how do you measure the other ones? Is it like chest, back, legs, and then you consider arms that 25, or you going 25 triceps, 25
Yeah, I'm doing
biceps?
arms 25. So the usual split for me is going to be I'm going to start Monday with some chest because that's my weakest body part. So I'll start chest because I got the most energy. I took the weekend off. Then I'll go towards back, which is my strongest upper body part. Then I'll go and I usually do shoulders and abs, and I'll do a ton of shoulders and a little bit of abs.
Okay.
And
25 to 35 in shoulders.
shoulders.
Okay.
And then abs, I'll just do a little circuit, and I'll bring myself to failure, but I'll be a little circuit of like 4 different sets, and there'll be like 4 different exercises that I do every week, and I progressively overload through those, and I'll switch those up every 3 weeks. And then I'll do arms, which that one I'll do 25, probably around 35 on that one.
Sure.
But I'll like mix them up in between. I'll do one try, one by, one try, one by. And the reason why I like it like that is because I like to have a bicep pump, then have a tricep pump, then a bicep pump, then a tricep pump. So I don't really lose my pump during the workout. Because I found out when I just do buys, then tries, at the end of the workout, I'm like, my tries are pumped up, but my buys just lost the pump. And I just like the feeling of having big arms.
Sure.
Suddenly after a good arm workout. So that's the way I do it. And then I finish the week by legs.